I have to be honest, I'm not a big reality TV watcher, but you guys are amazingly honest. So first of all, thank you for joining us in DC, all the way from, they were in India, they have taken a flight to Dubai and then landed up here. So it's a busy life for the Huda Beauty team. Tell me a little bit more than what we've read about. We know that you were born in Oklahoma, you moved to Tennessee, then to Boston, and then to Dubai. You guys have a very, very amazing past. You're on Facebook at this point. You've got a huge social media presence. How did that story happen, and how did that love affair for the three sisters really begin with makeup?
I think I'll start if you don't mind.
Please go ahead. You usually do.
The middle one always wins.
She's starting like that. Well, first of all, we're so honored to be around such amazingly powerful women. It's really amazing to be here. But our love for beauty really started, I think, where people probably wouldn't imagine it start. Ultimately, I felt really ugly as a child. I grew up, we grew up in Tennessee amongst, we were the only brown people in the city. And I think there was a lot of times where children probably made us feel like we were not, beautiful. And then you would see advertisements with a certain beauty standard. And ultimately, I just felt like I just didn't belong. And I felt like I wanted to feel beautiful. My sister was in beauty pageants, and she just looked like a doll. And if you know anything about Middle Eastern families, it's like the lighter skin you are, the more beautiful you are. And so I really wanted to feel it. I felt like if I could feel beautiful, then it would kind of solve a lot of my, my insecurities. And so that was around probably 9, which is a very young age, but that's when I started this love affair and this really interest, and I was so curious about beauty. And I started playing with things, and I should say I had a beard by the time I was 9 as well, and a unibrow. Middle Eastern people, we can be very hairy. And so I started playing with tweezers and all those things, and by the time I was 14, I was like a professional makeup artist.
Was it like an armor for you, or was it your way of assimilating into American Tennessee culture?
I think I was hopeful to assimilate. Yeah. But ultimately it was an armor. I felt I felt powerful when I learned how to fix my brows and how to do certain things. I felt really good. I felt like I had a secret, that I could teach my friends, and it felt really amazing. Ultimately, I didn't know that it would bring me here. We grew up in, this very conservative Middle Eastern family. They kind of, pushed us into a more traditional working environment. We both studied finance, and when we decided to study makeup, my parents were like, oh God, this girl, she's a loser, let's just leave her. It's a service industry, it's not actually.
No, a doctor, an engineer, or a scientist.
Or a lawyer.
Or a lawyer.
Or a lawyer.
I understand and empathize. Did you have the same feelings when you were growing up that Huda and your sister possibly had? Or did you have a completely different experience because of that light skin?
If I'm honest, I had a very different experience. For me, it was always I would look up to Huda because she was my older sister. We're about a year apart. So I always felt confidence, but I always just wanted to be like Huda. So whatever she would do, I would follow and support her, and I think that's what we still do together. But yeah, I think because I had more fair skin, and also I was just really nerdy in school, so I never even cared about being popular or having friends. I was just a really big dork. I sat in the front row, and I still am. I still am a dork.
We love dorks.
So I just never really cared about what people thought, but I just really wanted to be like Huda and do whatever Huda did. So it's very different.
Tell us about this journey, because everyone's spoken about how much you've managed to achieve in the Middle East, running the business, basing it out in a part of the world that has not looked very kindly on successful women who put themselves out there. And again, the story of this growth from 5,000 to a valuation of $1 billion in 5 years has come from a region that's not known for it, come from a region that's not accepted women. And you have an Iraqi-American background.
Yep.
They've not accepted women in that position. We've seen bloggers have a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
How have you managed to not just convince Marnie to be part of all of this and use Instagram? So they started on Instagram,
yeah.
blogging and then Instagram,
yes.
which is the connection into Facebook Watch. How did that journey happen? How difficult was it, and how do you balance the backlash that sometimes happens in that region?
You know, it's difficult, I think, everywhere in the world, but in the Middle East, it's still, I mean, I still struggle to date when people are in meetings and they refuse to make eye contact with me, they're making eye contact with my husband, and I'm like, no, don't look at him. You have to convince me, you know, and it's a challenging, you know, it's a challenging place to be in because, you know, I think I've gone through a lot of my journey, you know, as an alpha female, learning exactly, you know, what it means to be a leader, what it means to be, you know, aggressive at some points, but also understand that I don't have to be that in every single aspect of my life. I think I was forced to really go through that journey very, very young and very early, and it taught me a lot. I think that it's also challenging being in the beauty industry because people will see all of this glam and they make so many assumptions on that. They, you know, they assume that, you know, you can't be, you know, beautiful, put time into your makeup, you can't take care of yourself and also be serious and also be a good mother and also have intelligence, to be quite frank. And that's frustrating.
And just be visible.
Just be visible, you know, be, you know, actually somebody who makes decisions. And that was an extremely frustrating thing that we went through. And I remember, you know, being at some point being like why can't every single woman be every single part of who they are? Why can't we just, you know, encompass and really just embrace all of that? And it was challenging. I mean, I still to this day when we go into our building and we have the most floors in our building, you know, if I'm really dolled up versus if I'm dressed more simple, people like look at me like, you know, and it's really frustrating because I'm like, do you know that I'm actually, you know, I'm a leader in this organization and I own majority of the company and I've built it from the ground up. And, you know, like a lot of times you're just like, you know, it is what it is, but it's still something that needs to change. You know, and I said this to Mona this morning. I was like, you know, we have 77% women in our company, 23% men, but 100% feminist. And I think that that's so powerful. And it actually makes me emotional talking about it because there's still so much that needs to happen. I'm gonna let you go.
You made me emotional.
It's a difficult journey in the Middle East, and when success happens, it does make us emotional.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about that journey, because again, you've managed to get $5,000 from your older sister, Alia, who's also in the business, not on the stage. But then private equity got involved. You had to convince them as Iraqi-American women to raise the money and then get to that $1 billion valuation. How did that happen?
Well, it was a really long journey. So I think when we first initially started, we just had to make ends meet, and we were super scrappy. We didn't take a salary for years, and initially when we first started, it was so funny because we were trying to convince people to work with us. We were trying to sell the vision. We're like, listen, we're onto something big. You just have to believe in us. And I think, you know, I think there was a tipping point around year 4, when we launched Color Cosmetics, and the company just skyrocketed. And we actually had troubles just keeping the business going because we had cash flow problems. When you're growing, you know, everybody's so excited for you, but like scaling is so hard internally from a cash perspective, from a human resource perspective. So we were going through a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And I think it was when Huda had a talk at a WWD summit, a lot of PE firms were there and they all took notice and they were like, we think these people are onto something. So we just started getting calls and we just heard from so many investment banks and private equity firms, and it took a long time to make the decision, but ultimately we believe that if we're going to grow this business right, we need strategic partnership, and our investors are a huge part of, I think, our success in growing the business, so we're very grateful.
And they're growing really fast, Marnie. So a lot of their strategies, and I know, Mona, you've said that, Mona and Huda, you've both said that you think of yourselves as marketing companies. A lot of the story really did start on Instagram, and now with Huda Boss on Facebook Watch. How do you look at brands like this, these global brands that seem to have a huge following, big following, that's even more than the population of Dubai, I've read somewhere. I mean, the statistics are quite interesting. How does that tie in with the Facebook Watch strategy for you and the history of the Instagram followings?
Well, I mean, first of all, they are amazing. What they have done is really quite extraordinary. And I think, you know, for me, I learn, you know, 2 really big lessons from them, which I think that people can take away in terms of how business gets done these days, particularly with social. The first is just that business is personal. They speak in such a personal, authentic way on the show, right here, right now, on their Instagram, on Facebook. They are just very authentic, and I think that's how they've built this global community, and they've also built this global brand. The second for me is that they are creators first. And the thing about today is that we don't just learn about new products and services from brands, from companies, big or small. We learn about them from creators, tastemakers, influencers, whatever the word is. And the key ingredient of that relationship is trust. Huda was one of the first vloggers, video bloggers, giving beauty tutorials. And she developed that, because she was so personal and authentic, she developed that relationship with her community. And so when they went to go launch their brand, they had a community that really trusted them on other products, but then on their products themselves, which is huge. So I think with their show, Huda Boss, which is excellent, by the way, I highly recommend it, season 2. You get like a really great behind the scenes look at what it's like to be an entrepreneur, the ups, the downs, what it's like to start a business with your sister. I love my sister, but I cannot imagine running a business with my sister and with your husband, no less. Like, I can't even imagine doing that.
They're suckers for punishment.
Right. I mean, I'm not a great parent every day. She is, raising her daughter on camera. But it really, it's very empowering. They've created a community that connects around passion for beauty, and really, and I think this is it. It's not just about beauty, but empowering others. Facebook Watch is our video destination for long-form video, and we have all different kinds of content there. But the content is meant to really spark community, conversation, and connection. And I think that that's what they have done so beautifully. It is, 720 million people visit Facebook Watch every month, and 140 million people watch, on average, 26 minutes a day of video in Facebook Watch. So it's really growing, but here's what's so interesting here is that then when you kind of watch the show, and then, you might see a beauty tutorial later on Thursday. They drop these tutorials. And so let's say I see Mona, pulling out the Mercury retrograde eyeshadow palette.
There are too many plugs going on.
Right. No, I'm saying they just dropped this. They showed this to me. I've been like oohing and ahhing about this product. And so if I see it there, then what happens is, and many of you can probably relate to this, you then go to their Instagram and you want to find out more about what's going on, or find out more about that product, where to buy it, what shades, all the information about how much it costs, all of that.
But this brings up a good question. Again, you mentioned this about trust and authenticity.
Yeah.
And here's a question for the two of you, because I've met a few people who've been in the industry, considered influencers, built businesses, not as big as yours perhaps, but they do run those businesses. The question comes back to authenticity and trust. How do you ensure that you are authentic and trustworthy while running essentially a beauty business, which is a marketing business? Mm-hmm. How do you balance all of those and actually retain all of those people from Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, Europe, now hopefully the US? Mm-hmm. How do you keep that trust?
For me, there's no question about it. It's not about our brand first, it's about the community first. So, I said this to Marnie yesterday because there was a primer that we created, and then another brand called Tatcha, which is a skincare brand, created another primer, and I like theirs more than ours. So I was like, I'm not using ours anymore. And in the video, I was using theirs. And my husband was like, what are you doing? We're not selling our primer anymore. I was like, give it away for free. I don't know what to tell you.
We have so much inventory. Stop pushing other people's primer.
And I was like, give it away for free. Yeah. I was like, throw it in for free. And I was like, get rid of it. Because we need to,
And that's the authenticity you think that resonates.
It's a long-term approach. I'm not here. I think I also said this, a few days ago as well. Like there was an offer that we got from another brand. It was a $10 million plus equity dollar deal, and it was a 1-year deal. And I was like, the brand is great. I was like, I'm just not interested. I was like, I have a very long-term approach. This brand needs to be able to supersede me. And essentially because of that, there's so much more that we have to do. And so if I am derailed in the short term by, an opportunity to make money, then I lose everything. I lose all the trust.
Marnie, that really does even apply to Facebook at this point. You've got a lot of regulatory eyes on you. You have privacy issues. You have trust issues. How do you retain the trust of people on your platform when you have all of those questions to answer?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm glad you're raising it because it's clearly top of mind for lots of people here, and we want businesses and people, everybody in our community, to feel safe and secure on the platform. And when I sit here and I listen to their story, we just feel this great sense of responsibility to get it right for them. And getting it right means continuing to innovate and come up with solutions to the issues. And I think we're a fundamentally different company than we were 2 years ago, and we've made a lot of strides. So one of the ways, and we were actually just talking about this right before, is that we've increased the capacity of our community operations team. We now have 35,000 people that are in this operation responding to reports. We have a 24/7 model with teams around the world so that we can respond faster to the reports. The second thing is that we really have started using AI and machine learning to detect this stuff faster and to get it. So when you talk about things that compromise authenticity, fake accounts are one of those, and fake accounts proliferate low quality information, which we don't want to have on the platform. And so what we've done by applying machine learning and AI is we're now able to detect and remove more than 1 million fake accounts a day at the point of creation. So I think we've made progress in this regard. And then I would say the third thing that we're doing is that not everybody wants us to make these decisions, and we can't make them by ourselves. So we are working with independent, third-party fact-checking organizations globally. We work with more than 50 of them in 40 different languages, which is important for a global company to identify where there's misinformation. And so this is hard, this is challenging, but it's something that's important, and we're working hard to continue to find new solutions, and the stuff will continue to be there, not claiming to be perfect at all, but we're working hard at it.
Working on it. And you're working on a lot of products. I know we've got 8 seconds left to go, and I was going to ask audience questions, but I'm obviously going to get thrown off the stage. So, quick last bit. If everyone here needed to understand your brand, one word answer, your fake lashes, or your new eyeshadow palette, what do they buy first?
How can you make us choose?
They've got to choose. Buy them both?
Eyeshadow palette.
Eyeshadow palette.
You're gonna choose one.
There
I would
you
say
go.
the same, because you
It's
could always
easier.
use it as a blush too, and a lipstick. So.
If you want to try it out, that's their tip. Ladies, thank you so very much.
Thank you so
Huda,
much.
Mona.
Thank you.